Hi, my name is Daniel Stepanian, and I'm going to be presenting a couple articles about improving working memory. So the first article comes from Holmes and colleagues, and they were talking about how working memory is a predictor for success in areas such as language comprehension, problem solving, and learning. There is a cognitive limit to working memory capacity, however, and our capacity to process information can be diminished by situational factors like sleep deprivation or cognitive fatigue or stress, and improve through cognitive training. The question that they're addressing in this article is, can working memory be enhanced immediately? Western cultures tend to have individuals with fixed mindsets. Thus, they assume traits like intelligence are fixed to each individual and aren't able to be changed. Due to this, difficult tasks may generate thoughts about incompetence that can tax working memory and result in poor performance. And the researchers' hypothesis was that changing the way people appraise their experience in a testing situation through reframing difficulty during a task as a normal outcome of learning can prevent taxing of working memory through intrusive thoughts and thus improve working memory performance. So getting into the methods, uh, the participants were a sample of 111 sixth graders, 51 boys, and 60 girls of varying socioeconomic um, classes. There were three groups. First was difficulty with reframing, difficulty without reframing, and standard or control. Participants in the difficulty with and without reframing first completed three series of two difficult anagrams, and these anagrams were difficult enough that the children failed all the items. In the difficulty with reframing condition, the experimenter oriented the children's interpretation of difficulty. For each series, participants were told that experiencing processing difficulty was normal and only a reflection that learning was happening. Afterwards, participants completed a listening span task, and for the control group, they skipped the whole anagram portion and went straight to the listening span task. During this task, participants listened to several series of sentences, and these series ranged from 2 to 5 sentences. For each sentence, they had to indicate it as quickly as possible and as accurately as possible by pressing a key whether the sentence they heard made sense or not. They also needed to memorize the last word of the sentence. At the end of the series of sentences, children were asked to recall out loud as many last words as possible in the order they were presented. The independent variable was whether the child's mindset was reframed by the experimenter, and the dependent variable was performance on the listening span task, measured by a proportion of words recalled. So getting into the results, scores from the listening span task were analyzed using a 3 by 2 ANOVA test. So the three groups that I already mentioned by two, which was high or low cognitive demand. And as we see in the graph, cognitive demand is the x-axis. So they categorize high cognitive demand as those series with 4 or 5 words to remember, and low cognitive demand as 2 or 3 words to remember. And as we see on the y-axis, it was proportion of words recalled. So they found that children in the difficulty with reframing group scored significantly higher than in the difficulty without reframing or the control group, as we can see in the graph. The effect was more pronounced when cognitive demand was high, so there are more sentences in the series. As well, children's socioeconomic status, academic level, and gender had no significant effects. So what does this mean? So they found that working memory can be improved in less than 10 minutes by a psychological intervention designed to change the metacognitive interpretation of difficulty. Um, in other words, by trying to alter that fixed mindset that I discussed earlier, um, these children showed improving scores in the listening span task, which was a measure of working memory. Thus, the hypothesis that changing the way people appraise their experience in a testing situation through reframing difficulty improves working memory performance is supported. Moving on to the second article by Novo and Bresnitz. Um, they were talking about how working memory is crucial for learning, including reading, and that there are four components, which are central executive, phonological loop, visual spatial sketchpad, and episodic buffer. The question they were asking in this study is, can combining training of working memory and reading accelerated program improve reading level and working memory? And their hypothesis was that combining a reading accelerated program and a working memory program will improve reading skills and working memory abilities. So getting into the methods. The participants were 97 children from 4 grade classes in a mid socioeconomic status Israeli town. Prior to trainings, all children were tested with a performance IQ measure, the Raven test, um, as well as working memory and reading comprehension tests. Children then were trained with the working memory program and or the reading accelerated program, which are both computer-based cognitive training programs. There were four groups, reading accelerated program plus reading accelerated program plus working memory program plus reading accelerated program, or the control. And so both of these programs consisted of 12 training sessions of 24 minutes each for the working memory program. And this one practiced different tasks related to working memory, such as digit span task and block matrix task. In the reading accelerated program, they trained decoding, fluency, and comprehension at the level of words, sentences, and paragraphs. So going back to the four groups, they split up these working memory program and reading accelerated program, and either combine the two. So 12 blocks of, for example, 12 blocks of reading accelerated program, and afterwards 12 blocks of the working memory program, or they just did 24 sessions of the reading accelerated program, and or vice versa. So 12 sessions of working memory program and 12 sessions of reading accelerated program, or the control, which was just no training at all. So the independent variable was the training program, and the dependent variable was the performance on the subsequent tests, in terms of IQ, working memory, and reading. So getting into the results, training had a significant effect on reading measures and all working memory measures except visual spatial short-term memory. All three training groups showed significant improvements over the control on phonological short-term memory and visual spatial complex memory. The RAP plus RAP group, which stands for Reading Accelerated Program, showed significant improvements on phonological complex memory over the untrained group. This group also showed significant improvements on an episodic buffer measure over the RAP plus WMP, WMP plus RAP, and the control. And so they concluded from their results that subjects in all three training groups significantly improved most of their working memory abilities over the control group. And groups that combined working memory and RAP seemed to have the most benefits for working memory, although these effects were more subtle. The hypothesis that combining a reading accelerated program and a working memory program will improve reading skills and working memory abilities was supported in this study. Thank you.